Buongiorno! Today I'm gonna be combining my April and May wrap up. April was kind of a hectic month for me. I managed to read 15 books, which I don't know how that happened because my April was intense. I had Yawas, the Festival of Books. I had so many other events, like every single week. I was so busy and I had so many things going on, so I have no idea how I managed to read 15 books. I'm honestly kind of in awe of myself. In May, I mostly was just recovering from how intense April was. I only read 10 books, 4 of which were for school, so I did not read much in May. I figured it'd be easy to smush them together. But anyways, there's lots of books, so let's get started. The very first audiobook slash book I read in April was The Case for Jamie by Brittany Calavaro. Oh my god, I was on the fence whether to read this book or not because I loved A Study in Charlotte so much. It was one of my favorite books that I read in like 2015 when it first came out, but the last of August was so disappointing and I wasn't sure if I wanted to read The Case for Jamie, but I'm so happy that I did because The Case for Jamie was everything I wanted and more. It reminded me why I love The Study in Charlotte so much and why I love these characters so much. It completely redeemed itself and it was so amazing. Love that this kind of went back to its roots. The second book, The Last of August, kind of took place all over Europe. This book came back to Sharingford, which is the boarding school. The vlog was so great. I was just squealing and it made me so happy. So happy that I read this book and I cannot wait to read A Question for Holmes. And the audiobook was also really great. There was 2 narrators, one for Charlotte and one for Jamie, and they did such a great job. Next, I read The Sun and Her Flowers by Rupi Kaur. I figured I wouldn't need to show you a picture because her book is so popular. I've seen Rupi Kaur get so much hate for her poetry, and a lot of people say that some of her poems are like not poetry. And while I do agree with that statement, some of her poems are not poetry, but there are some beautiful gems in The Sun and Her Flowers. There were some poems I really loved and connected to. They were really beautifully written, and then some other ones I was like, yeah, I kind of agree, this isn't really poetry. The hate and criticism she gets are disproportional to the flaws in her writing. If you don't like her writing, just don't read it. I really hate whenever I read people reviewing Rupi Kaur's writing and they just like hate on it so much. If you don't think it's poetry, don't read it, because you know what? Poetry is subjective. What you don't think is poetry might mean the world to somebody else. I really hate seeing how much hate Rupi Kaur gets. Do check the trigger warnings because there's some really dark topics in her poetry. Don't go in blind. Oh, wait a second. That's what I'm talking about. Volume 2. This is volume 2. Okay. Rephrase. I read Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur Volume 2. While I did love the first one a lot, the caveman plotline was not a fan of, but this one I actually loved so much more. I loved the moments between Devil Dinosaur and Moon Girl, and I'm so excited to check out more of this series. I really love it. It's so cute and it makes me so happy, so I cannot wait to read more of this series. I read a webtoon called Your Letter. I've been getting into webtoons lately and I'm kind of like addicted and obsessed. There's so many amazing stories on there and the art is just so beautiful. But anyways, Your Letter is a very short webtoon. It's only 10 chapters, so if you have the webtoon app, check it out because it's amazing. But the art style is so beautiful and the story is just so heartwarming. It's about this girl. She transfers to this middle school because in her old school she was like bullied really horribly, and so she transfers to this new middle school and she takes the place of this other kid. When she sits down at her desk, she finds a letter underneath her desk and it has instructions on how to find the next letter. So basically like the whole story is like her and this other kid teaming up together and trying to find all of the letters and also trying to figure out like what happened to the other kid because he transferred out of the school and didn't tell anybody why, and nobody knows like what happened to him. There's also like speculation like, is he dead? Because no one's heard from him. So the whole story is kind of like this mystery slash scavenger hunt, and it's just really sweet and heartwarming, and the art style is beautiful. So if you have the webtoon app, definitely check it out. It's really good. Next, I read The Love and Lies of Rukhsana Ali by Sabina Khan. I listened to the audiobook for this and I also read parts of it. This book broke my heart so much, but I also loved it. It's about a lesbian Bengali Muslim teen who, when her parents find out that she has a girlfriend, bring her to Bangladesh and force her to marry someone. It's really heartbreaking, and please check the trigger warnings because there's some really really intense scenes in this. I'm glad I read it. It does have a happy ending. I really love the representation. I don't know what to say about this book, mostly just because it just made me so emotional. I got to meet Sabina Khan at Y'all West for like 2 seconds because she was at the I Read YA breakfast and I went to that, so she handed me a copy of Love Lies I Just Got Not Lee, but I'm too lazy to like go get it. But anyway, so I told her how much I loved her book and she was like, oh, I'm so glad to hear that. But it was only like 2 seconds because she was handing me the book and there wasn't a lot of time. I urge you all to read it if you can handle the heavy, intense themes. And next, I read As Kismet Would Have It by Sandhya Menon. This is a Dimple and Rishi novella and it's free on riveted.com, so you just need to make an account and you can go and read it, and it's so cute. Please go read it. I loved When Dimple Met Rishi. It was like one of my favorite contemporaries when it first came out, and it was my most anticipated release when it first came out, and I loved this. I loved seeing Dimple and Rishi again, and we also got a little bit of Sweetie in this one. We got to meet Ashish and Sweetie together, and oh my god, already I'm like so excited to read There's Something About Sweetie because Sweetie was amazing in this one, and I want to read it. This was really cute and short, and if you love When Dimple Met Rishi, definitely check this one out. Definitely recommend reading this before There's Something About Sweetie. I haven't read There's Something About Sweetie yet, but I think just seeing a little bit of Sweetie and Ashes together first and then diving into the book, I just think is a great experience. Next, I read Check Please. Heard so many amazing things about this book. Everybody said it's so precious and it's so pure and it's so cute. It's about this freshman in college and he joins his college's hockey team. He's also gay. He loves baking too. He's like a baker. And I was so excited to read this because I've heard nothing but good things, but I'm sad to say that I was disappointed in this graphic novel. It was really cute. For a graphic novel, this might be a weird criticism, but I feel like there was too much telling and not enough showing, which you wouldn't expect from a graphic novel. Basically, the main character, he has a YouTube channel. Each chapter begins with him talking about like what's going on in his life. So he's like, oh my god, last week we won the hockey championship and I'm so excited and I'm making this thing. And like at first I thought it was really cute. Like, oh, he has a YouTube channel, like same. As the graphic novel went on, every single chapter started off like that, and I just wanted to like see the moments he was talking about. I didn't want to hear him talking about it. I just wanted to see the moments. This graphic novel would have been best, instead of it being like, I don't know, 3 years, this book spans like 3 years, it would have just been like 1 year, like his freshman year, and that's it, and just focused on that. I'm not sure if I want to continue on. I mean, I did like it. I didn't like it as much as I thought I was going to, and it really disappointed me. Next, I read Shadow Me by Tahera Mafi. You know, Shadow Me is my favorite series, and Shadow Me is told from Henji's point of view, one of my favorite characters. Oh my god, this novella was amazing. I loved hearing from Kenji's point of view. Like, we got to know so much more about Kenji, and it just felt so Kenji, like this novella, like his voice was so great. I cannot wait to read Define Me, where Kenji's point of view is like one of the main point of views. I love Kenji. I'm so happy that we finally got to read from his point of view. Next, I listened to the audiobook for One True Love by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Ever since I loved Evelyn Hugo and Daisy Jones and the Six so much, I've been making my way through Taylor Jenkins Reid's backlist, which I know a lot of people have been doing. My next read was One True Love. So the synopsis of this sounds really interesting. For most of her life, she was in love with this guy named Jesse. And then one day he goes on this travel trip and he never comes back and everybody thinks he's dead. 2 years later, she gets a phone call from Jesse. After she's moved on, she finds out that Jesse is actually alive. One True Love is about her trying to figure out where Jesse now lies in her life. I had really high hopes for this one because the synopsis sounded really interesting. This one is not my favorite Taylor Jenkins Reid book. I just really did not like Jesse. I just loved Sam. He's a musician and he liked books and he was really nerdy and cute, and I loved him and I just wanted more of Sam. And Jesse was kind of like your typical like jock character. Like he was like the captain of like the swim team in high school, confident. Although I did really love how like the main character, like her family owns this like independent bookstore called Blair Books, and she ends up like running it in this book, and it just like, I loved them talking about Blair Books because it reminded me of like so much of Mysterious Galaxy, and I love Mysterious Galaxy so much, so I really love that. I was a little disappointed in this one. Definitely recommend it if you love Taylor Jenkins Reid because it was a really good book. I just didn't love it as much as her other books. And the last book I read in April was The Kiss Quotient by Helen Huang. So I read this as part of the Autistic Pride readathon. And also I read Check Please and The Love and Lies of Rukhsana Ali as part of Prideathon. That was happening, I think, the first week of April. The main character, Stella, is autistic. This is a gender swapped pretty woman, which I didn't realize going in, but in the author's note, Helen says that, and I really love that. So basically, it's about Stella. She hires an escort to learn about love and relationships. I loved this one so much. Stella and Michael were just so cute. I shipped them so much, and I really love how Michael is Vietnamese, and we get like little bits of like Vietnamese in this book, and like there's like talks about Vietnamese food. I just love that. The only criticism for this book is that it felt like YA sometimes. So if you're looking to get into adult romance, this is adult romance and it is pretty steamy. If you're looking to get into adult romance and you're mostly read YA, I think this is a great bridge book. It definitely felt like YA at times. Stella and Michael were really insecure, and even though they were in their 30s, they had some pretty deep insecurities. I feel like in your 30s, you'd have worked out those insecurities by then. Their insecurities just felt very YA to me. Them being in their 30s, being the same level of insecurity of teenagers in YA, I just think it was a little bit unrealistic. Communication and miscommunication was like one of the plot lines in this, which I just really hate miscommunication. In YA, I feel like it makes sense because they're teenagers, they're still learning how to communicate effectively, and it makes sense that they might miscommunicate something or have communication issues. Like, it makes sense for me in YA, which I don't mind miscommunication in YA, but I don't like it when it's an adult romance because I'm like, really? You don't know how to communicate by now? Like, really? Both of the characters were like so insecure to the point where like they couldn't see that the other one was in love with them, and like sometimes like I think that's cute, but in this one it was a little annoying because I'm like, really? Really? Come on. It's really obvious that both of you guys are in love with each other. Like, deal with it already. Other than that, I really love this book. It was such a quick read. I listened to the audiobook and I read some parts of it. The second I started listening to it, like, I couldn't put it down. It was so good. Highly recommend this if you love adult romance, or if you're trying to get into adult romance from YA. I think this is a great bridge book. And now let's get into the books I read in May. So the first book I read in May was Anya's Ghost by Vera Bros. This book, I'm just zooming in on my Goodreads, basically. I had to return it to the library. It's a graphic novel. It was really cute, but also kind of dark. It's called Anya's Ghost because it's about this girl in like middle school who makes like a ghost friend. I get scared really easily, so when it comes to like ghost stories and like ghost books, I can only really read like middle grade stuff where the ghosts are like friendly, because or else I'm just gonna be like scared out of my mind. So I was expecting this book to be like a really cute like girl becomes friend with a ghost and like they're best friends and nobody can see her, but it didn't really go down that route. I was a little disappointed in that. But it's still really cute and it's a great story. It's just not personally what I like to read about ghost stories. I like to read ghost stories where the ghosts are friendly and they become friends with the main character. And this didn't really happen in this one, but... Next, I read another webtoon. Again, I'm obsessed with webtoons. April Flowers. So this book got like kind of gory and like creepy and like graphic sometimes. Just know that going in because I didn't. I like this one. It kind of takes place at like a boarding school slash like magic school. Like all these people are like training to be something and part of the magical world. I don't know. This book is kind of hard to explain and I feel like you should go into it kind of blind. I really hope the author makes season 2 sometime because I'd really love to read more of this book. And the next book I read was Invictus by Ryan Grading. I listened to the audiobook for this and all I knew was that it was time travel, and I'm trash for everything time travel. I think it's such a unique take on time travel. 200 years in the future, something like that. They've developed time travel, and the way it works is like you get a team of people, basically get into a ship and you go back in time. They're also very respectful of the fact that throwing people back in time, not always a good idea because you might screw up history. Most time travel stories kind of go down that route of like, let's go back in time, and then they screw something up in history and like, oh wait, let's go back and fix it. To be able to go back in time, it's a trained profession. Like you have to get a degree to do that, and you basically learn a bunch of different skills to be able to blend in with the world around you. If you want to be the captain of the ship, you have to like know how to blend in. You have to be a really good historian. Things like sword fighting skills, and you learn like a bunch of different languages. You learn like 18th century like etiquette rules, and there's so many things that you have to know to be able to go back in time because you have to be able to blend in with that time and not stand out, and I really loved that. I thought this world was so cool. There's a scene where they go on the Titanic and they're like trying to get this thing called the Rubaiyat, which is, I don't know if it's a real thing, this gemstone inlaid book, priceless, and it went down in the Titanic. I really loved this take on time travel. It was really unique, and I love that they were respectful of the fact that like just throwing people back in the past can like screw things up. It had nothing to do with going back and changing history. It was very, very unique. I've never seen anything like this done before, and I really loved it. Continuing on my Taylor Jenkins Reid backlist, after I do my Taylor Jenkins Reid, which, you know, going into this book, I didn't expect much of it because this After I Do is about this married couple who's been married for forget how many years, but they realize that resentment has grown in their marriage and they decide to take a year apart to just be alone and not talk to each other and try to repair their marriage. So I went in with very low expectations because I don't typically like to read books about marriages. I think that was a great idea because I went in with such low expectations and I came out of it completely blown away by this book. I think this is now going to be like one of my favorite Taylor Jenkins Reid books. Obviously, Evelyn Hugo is always #1 and Daisy Jones and the Six is #2, but I think this one is #3. After I Do is so much more than just about marriage. I went in thinking that it was going to be about marriage, but it wasn't. It was about love in all forms. And I think one of the biggest message of this book was that all types of love are so important and each one is equally important, not just romantic love, but also platonic and familial. The main character, they decide to take a year off. Yes, there is a time where she does like start going out with this guy, but the main thing about this book is her getting closer with her family again and her getting closer with her friends, doing things that have nothing to do with her husband and nothing to do with her marriage. It made me so emotional. Like, I didn't expect this book to make me emotional, but it did. I connected so much to this book, which I did not expect. I gave this book 5 stars, and it's now my 3rd favorite Taylor Jenkins Reid book. This was the one that I was most nervous about, that I felt like I might not like that much, but it actually ended up being one of my favorites books. I really loved it. And next, for the Asian readathon, I read Bloom Into You Volume 1. This was my very first manga, and it's a Yuri manga, so it's female-female romance, and I was really disappointed by this manga. I was super excited to read it because it's female-female, and I was really excited to finally like get into manga because I've never read manga before, and when I went on the Goodreads page for this book to add it, I saw that a lot of my Goodreads friends really liked this book and rated it really highly, so I was so excited for this book, but I didn't like it. I gave this book 3 stars. Nothing happened in this book, and I don't know if there was like a translation issue, but just some of the language was very awkward. This book was just about this girl goes to this new school and she meets this other girl who is like trying to run for like student council president. The whole book they're just kind of like talking about, well, we gotta do this campaign, and then they're also like getting closer. I was really disappointed by this one. If you have any Yuri manga recommendations, please leave them down below because I really want to read more manga and especially Yuri manga. So please leave your recommendations down below, and hopefully the next Yuri manga I read I really love. Last book I read in May was With the Fire on High by Elizabeth Acevedo, and oh my god, I love this book with all of my heart. It meant so much to me. I wrote like a little mini Goodreads review, so I'll leave it down below. It's about Amani. She's a teen mom. This is during her senior year of high school. She's juggling being a teen mom, and she also decides to take this culinary arts elective. I love Amani so much. She's such an amazing protagonist, and all of the things that she juggles at her age is inspiring. Her love and passion for the culinary arts and for cooking, which is so endearing to read about. I feel like cooking is one of those things one of those hobbies that you don't see a lot in YA, and I'm really happy that we got to see this in With the Fire on High. I loved this one so much. I want everybody to read this book because it's amazing, and Elizabeth Acevedo just like never disappoints. Her writing is just flawless. It's amazing, and her books, they have all of my heart. That's all I read in April and May. I read a lot of books, and there's a lot of books that I just didn't talk about because I read for school. Total, I read 15 books in April, which I'm shocked. And I think I read 10 books in May, so 25 books! 25 books in 2 months! I am in awe, honestly. I am in awe. Comment down below if you've read any of these books, what you thought of them. Social media links are all down below. My Twitter, my Bookstagram, and Goodreads. Arrivederci!